Hello and welcome back to another week of DXV podcasting. This is the last of the Six Nations, as we have France emerge as our victor and Six Nations champion. So, little golf clap for France. Congratulations. Only a little one, nothing too much. That being said, the myriad of games this weekend and the emotions high and low. So, let's kick us off. First game, Italy versus Ireland. I thought Italy came out the blocks quite well.
They did do well. I think it was a really odd game to watch because while Italy never looked like winning it, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
like it didn't. Like, it was just a case of like Ireland also didn't particularly look like.
Ireland didn't look comfortable.
No.
Like I think, yeah, I swear, Italy, I just have found a diamond in like Menoncello and Brex. Like
That's probably the centre partnership of the Six Nations. Like,
yeah, it was to watch them, and I'm like, good old fashioned centre play. So none of the sort of out the back, just short, hard lines, hitting spaces, gaps, at pace, at flat was just, they've really emerged as one hell of a centre partnership.
And the great thing is that's a centre partnership for a long time, right? They have like Menoncello's still a kid, and he's a really high quality player as it stands. Has a really low error rate as well for someone as impressive as him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like normally what you see is like a kid comes through, does loads of good stuff, but also does loads of stupid stuff that gets them in trouble. But he doesn't seem to have that. He just does his job really, really well. Bursts through contact extremely well and has an amazing turn of pace. There were a couple of opportunities where had they given the ball, they might have got over the line. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about.
Offload that you were just begging for. He's by the side and sort of takes the contact, and that was frustrating.
Brex maybe lacks a slight turn of pace. Like he's not the quickest centre,
but I always see him as a sort of that 13. Like defensively, he's strong, and he's at that sort of Italian backline, probably their lead, and sort of like their potentially like Gail Fickow of the future.
Massive player, like huge, great player, but like
turns up at key moments.
But just if he gets through the line, he needs a support runner. It's not.
Yeah, he's not.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's not going to make the whole thing. He also wears a scrum cap as a back, which I take umbrage to. But
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's hit at least one ruck. Therefore, just
but
I need scrums though. I think on to Ireland. Don't get me wrong. It was a win for them. After sort of last week,
bonus point win as well. Just
I don't. Yeah, they didn't look that comfortable. I don't think they would be happy, and Easterby, and I don't think that they would be happy with the way that this Six Nations has ended. I think they needed if they would have had a big, comprehensive, just as not a massive, but just a comprehensive sounding score against Italy, just played very well in a lot of.
And it would have been a middling.
Yeah, they would have been happy with that, but I think the way it sort of, I suppose, like fizzled out against Italy. It was a win, but they
struggled against Wales.
Yeah, just
got beat by France. Like it's not. There wasn't many. Bar them beating England in round one, there wasn't a lot of like comprehensive wins.
It wasn't the Ireland a lot of people were expecting, and I don't think it was the Ireland. I don't think their performances are what Ireland wanted. And I'm not saying like not the victories. Everyone wants the victories, but I don't think they were the team performances that the coaching staff in Ireland would have aimed for.
And I think it begs the question that I've heard a lot of people asking, a lot of news articles, like, or Ireland, like they're not a bad team, they're still a great team, right? They still do stuff, but like, are they past their peak? If that makes sense, like, are they?
Yeah.
Either at it and then now are they going to plateau, or are they slowly in the decline? And the age profile of their team.
And this is something that we've like we will cover off in terms of like where teams are at in that sort of up and down and ebb and flow. I think Ireland are sort of on that downhill slope. They are. I mean, even just look at this sort of Six Nations. Some of their steadfast, like Cian Healy, Sean O'Brien, Conor Murray stuff, like they're gone shortly after Sexton gone. People that have been in and are, and if all right, not the starters, but people that have been steadfast leaders, the experience that have been in and around that team and those youngsters. And I think once they gone again, I think again look at the under-20s, Ireland under-20s, like they wooden spoon. So I think the problem is that despite sort of Ireland's recent couple of years of being sort of what is coming up there, and I do think that in the next few years we'll see them sort of come down that slope a little bit more maybe before we see them sort of rise again. Sort of the Ireland Italy game. We'll switch. I think there was only one other game of the weekend, Scott.
Do you want to leave the hard bit till last? You missed everyone now stealing himself off camera before we got to the pod.
I sort of said to myself before I was ready to talk about the Wales-England game in Cardiff. Close one in the end, Chris. Thoughts?
Genuinely, I was quite genuinely scared before the game.
We both said last week that if there was ever something to unify and if Wales were ever going to come out fighting at any point, it was sort of now or never.
And I knew, though, I'd said, I don't know if I said it to you or to someone, but like I'd said the England team needs to get 2 tries ahead. If they can get 2 tries ahead, they'll quieten the Principality, and then they can start to find their flow. You'll be comfortable then, right? That's a comfortable margin of error, and then they can start playing. And that happened a lot quicker than I thought it would. So England scored the first try by Maro Itoje off the maul. And I was like, great, it's an awesome start. It's exactly the start they needed. And then there was the try that wasn't from Blair Murray. And I was like, damn it, like, knew it. This is exactly. Then that got disallowed, and I was like, that's a body blow. Because
striking right back, right? It's stopping momentum for one team, somebody else coming back into it.
And then when that was disallowed, I was like, that's going to hurt. That will hurt the Welsh. And then there was a pretty quick answer again from Roebuck over in the corner. I was like, and that's the game. Like, that is.
And I think it's probably where Wales have been. I mean, we discussed it before. Wales on a downward sort of spiral. We had a little bit of sugar rush. We covered it in the podcast a few weeks ago when I said that I'm not convinced. Like Gatland left and sort of Anscombe came in, Max Llewellyn came in, and sort of we had a little peak in attacking and stuff. And everyone was like, "Oh Jesus, like this is the Wales. What has Gatland been doing?" And I wasn't convinced then. I knew we'd have a little sort of short spike, but I knew sort of obviously the 2 sort of losses following that had put Wales straight back into where they were. That was, as a Welsh fan, hard to watch. I mean, it's hard to watch. Not only is it in sort of Cardiff, in your home, in your back garden, it was hard to hear Swing Low ring around your stadium as loud as it did. It was hard to watch the faces of the players and the coaches.
They looked broken.
And I think it is. I mean, let's have a look. I think that's what 14 out of the last 15 Six Nations games. That's what the record lost to England at home. And I mean, at what point does how much lower is sort of the Welsh rugby as a whole going to get? And I'm hoping that. Can't remember who said it. It was sort of the Welsh Rugby and Welsh News that said never let a crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
And I think it is now that if this isn't a wake up call to the Welsh Rugby Union as a whole, as into where we are, then I don't know what is. Because that, I mean, God, I mean, it takes something to Welsh fans to be online pushing out hashtag Bring Back Gatland. Like you know you've got to go at that point when things as petty as that are coming out. I really struggled to take some positives away from that for Wales. I think apart from maybe one individual, two individuals, maybe I struggled as a team to pull any positives from that. Comprehensively beaten by an England team that are getting stronger, are getting better, and by a Welsh team that are not at a competitive level. And sort of no matter which Welsh team I think you pick, whether you go back to Gatland, whether you bring again Anniscan, Max Llewellyn in, and as a team we are not competing at the level that we need to be.
The problem I think
it's hard, but yeah.
No, and it is, but it's also like how I 100% agree with you in terms of like never let a crisis go to waste. It's you have to do something because that has knock-on effects, right? Like that's when you start losing the 50-50s with a dual qualified player. So you get a star who's born in Wales but is Scottish qualified or English qualified, as the case may be. Where are you going to go play? Well, I want to win stuff. So I want to, and it becomes difficult, and then the problem compounds. So you kind of have to do something almost drastic to turn the fate.
That this will give them the opportunity to go and do something drastic. I am hoping that it is not a knee jerk. I am hoping that it is not scrap another region or another two regions, because I genuinely believe that the state of Welsh rugby and the 10-15 years of players coming through, and I believe to this day that this is going back and looking at the region sides and getting rid of a strong Welsh Premiership that it used to be, and dropping down to the regional sides. And I think this is the 15-20 years, this is the sides that weren't born to that. And I genuinely think that's why we're in a position. So I'm hoping that the knee-jerk reaction from the Welsh Rugby Union isn't just to start cutting other regions, especially not when the four regions are within the same stretch of the M4. I'm hoping that's not the case, but I think we have to do something, because expecting Welsh fans to pay 120 quid for a ticket next year to watch Wales get beaten by England by 60 points home is not going to happen. We're not going to fill the stadium. And if the stadium does get filled, it'll get filled by England fans, not Welsh fans. We're going to struggle to do that, which again forces then struggle on money. And if your international team isn't bringing money in and that money's not coming down, it is a business. It is a professional era of rugby where the money and business comes first. So I think it's going to be a tough old time. Even to the point where I think we discussed it before, 2 games against Japan in the summer for Wales. But looking at the rankings, we are extremely close. Japan just a tiny bit below us, but only literally one space. So I think the away games in Japan, 2 of them, Japan will fancy it. So for the Welsh fans thinking that actually sort of at least it'll stop the sort of record losses, Wales going out there. But will it? Because it's one thing like losing to, again, the France and Englands and Irelands, and there's another thing going and starting to lose against teams that are further down that ranking.
Tier 2 opposition, right? Like that's what you don't want to be. From an England perspective, though, I was quite pleased. And I know you said, I read the article where it talks about like it's the worst thing at the minute is the sympathy from English fans. So I'll do my best not to give you any of that now. But from an English perspective, I was really pleased. I thought mainly because the one thing that they got criticised for again in their defeat of Italy, which is pretty comprehensive, 7 tries, which is decent.
Yeah.
But the only thing they got kind of picked on a little bit was that they didn't, when they had their foot on the throat, they didn't press, and they didn't really like go for it. And that knowing that they needed a points difference against France, they needed to close that gap. They could have put more, and they didn't. So I was really happy with what happened in Cardiff, just because they did. Like,
ruthless. Even to the try at 81.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just ruthless.
I was in a room with the friends and I was watching it. And I was like, what they need to do now to really is like not kick it out, go for it,
and went for it. Yeah,
hammer them. Like, and they did. And Cunningham South crashes over, almost unopposed. I think Wales lost the physical battle. Overall, from what I saw, it was too big.
Team selection absolutely bang on for England.
I thought Borthwick was on crack when he put that team out, and I was
the luxury of Chandler South coming on early. I mean, did us no favors. And all right, sort of don't get me wrong, Chesham's a geezer, but I was just like, yeah, that was not what Wales would have wanted to see. That's such a because that is, I mean, like that is a 5-back row almost. Doing like a Toje coming in the second row, and then that back row. I mean, I
genuinely thought Steve Borthwick may have had a bit of a smoke something before he picked his team, because I was like, no luck cover, no specialist luck cover. And while Willis and Chandler Cunningham South have both played there in the Prem, it's in extremis, and when there's no one else to do it, and they've done it for a few minutes in a game, it's not a. And that was the other bit that I was really pleased with, is everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong, right? They had no center cover, no luck cover, and they dealt with it, and they dealt with it well, right? So, like you said, Chandler Cunningham South came on and added 2 tries.
Absolute depth.
Tommy Freeman goes off. Ben Earl goes to 12. On comes Henry Pollock, 2 tries. Like, it was. They just dealt with those problems. The ruthless intent. I think England's found a centre pairing now. Slade is a fantastic player, real quality. I can completely see why Borthwick persevered with him and chose him in the first place, because you can't be Premiership player of the season last year and not get picked. So he did, and he got stuck with him. And to his credit, like, I'm a big believer in Borthwick's process. I don't think he's about evolution, not revolution. So he slowly rejuvenated this team, and I can see why he picked Slade, but I do think he has struggled to make his mark on the test arena. And Fraser Dingwall has come in and been that glue. Like, he links really nicely between the players, which I think, and he maybe lacks a bit of punch and size from what you'd want from a 12, but he doesn't carry a whole lot. Like,
I don't think that was, because when you look at sort of England, you don't have a 12 that carries.
There's no. You could get a Jomo in, but he's not trained with the team for a long while.
That's why like Ben Earl works, and that's why this works, because actually sort of like is that slightly different sort of person in there. I dislike the fact that England has a whole squad depth, and I don't just mean depth in terms of caliber of like players. I mean the different style of players that you have.
We can pick to play a game that whenever we need.
Can very quickly pick a team to suit the team that he's playing, and he doesn't have to worry that actually this is my one style of play, that these are the players that I have to play this one style and go out and do it, and I need to worry about just enforcing that on you. It's the fact that he can look at Wales, look at the sort of weaknesses, and then have a squad that is fully prepared, not to change styles, but to pick specifically for that. And I think that the team selection, the team plan for that weekend was picked to perfection from sort of Borthwick and his team.
I mean, the Curries, I was thinking, it's like the back row depth that England has is phenomenal. Like, crazy levels of back row depth, and like we haven't even gotten into all of them yet. Like you look at the people that aren't in the squad, right? Like Jack Kenningham, Ted Hill didn't play.
Right.
You had Guy Pepper,
I'm
Alfie
sure
Barbary,
we'll get into it in depth, but yeah, I was
like those people. Sam Underhill.
the Lion back row. I couldn't even, because I know when you look at performances again and a little bit of the Wales, like maybe Jack Morgan, but like no, like I'd love to see
Curry, Ben Curry, but like
I'm just and by the time you get into Ireland and you get into Conan and you get into Van der Fleer and you get into Doris and you're like, just it's phenomenal. I cannot, like, that is going to be, like, I think one of the most, like, that Lions test back row will be one of the talking points.
I think Tom Willis has really put his hand up actually, in being like the classic 8. I need someone big, strong, carries, got enough of a turn of pace, but I just need to break the gain line and get the ball away to someone faster.
You believe you're Don Brandt's, but a bit more,
with punch, real punch and he's got some grit in defence as well. Overall, I'm really content, obviously, with England's performance on the weekend, but how that's panned out into the Six Nations. Finn Smith has gone really well. Feel for Marcus Smith, but will he, in the long run, benefit from being able to play in multiple positions? Almost certainly. I think that's, with the world of 7-1 splits, that's the way the world is going, in the sense of it ain't going to cut it to just play the one position. You're going to have to be able to play. Yeah. And Daly, like, just a word for Elliot Daly. Like, you see him when he gets picked in the squad, England fans are like, oh, Daly's past his prime. Like, what now? Because, he is.
Again, that split on the bench works because you've got somebody that covers the 15, the 13, the wing.
Yeah.
Like it,
in a pinch can cover 10. Like,
I've not liked him for years, but even like the last Lions thing, I'm like, what the hell is Daly doing? And then I realise he is the perfect bench. Like, even if he's the perfect bench man.
And he did he's such a good fullback. He's a real quality player. And then Pollock, congratulations on his debut, 2 tries.
Yeah.
Classic Pollock performance. Came on early as well. Like, I'm so annoyed I didn't pick him as my super sub. I genuinely was like, he's a classic bench player as well. Like, he's like super energetic. I was like, he'll feed on the energy of the Principality.
Yeah, super energetic, young, hungry, first cap against an already battered Wales.
Yeah, of course he can.
What a time to unleash that. What a time for that.
And then I was like, oh, don't know how much game time he'll get. Borthwick has a history of not using his bench. Comes on at like 48 minutes. I was like, Borthwick, you've seen me off here, mate. And then
seen off big.
But overall, really happy, comprehensive win. Congratulations to the England team.
A comprehensive and record win for England over Wales in Cardiff. That led us on to a bated breath by England fans, knowing that they were snuck to the top of the Six Nations table. All suddenly started dancing around with bagpipes and kilts on, supporting the Scots.
Really started owning that McKenna last name, mate.
Muck. Scotland against France. Interesting start to that game.
It was. I was watching that game and I was like, could they maybe? Could they do us a favour? No, they couldn't. No, they can't. And like, the further behind they got, the more you started seeing Scotland do Scotland things, where offloads were thrown that weren't on, like interceptions were thrown. Yeah. And it's like, this is what you can't do. This is the exact opposite of what you do in this situation. Like, take a minute, steel yourself, and then get back to. But
and we've said that there's teams that to Ireland are probably for the last year, like they grind out wins. Like they can crawl back, and they don't crawl back by flowing the offloads and doing this. they go back to sort of centre.
What are we good at? Yeah.
Yeah, and Scotland did, as soon as the sort of pressure came. Richie, I don't know how many sort of penalties he gave away, did not read the ref at all. France, France showed us why they are deservedly top of the table.
They absolutely deserve to win that trophy. They are a real quality side, and I've said, like, I was saying to the people in these houses, I was like, it's actually like France play rugby the way rugby should be played. Like, they have power, but they also have pace, and they also have skill, and they have almost like the complete game, right? And they're still very capable of having moments like they did against England where it's like just
well, everybody has an off day.
Yeah. But I mean, and I think that's probably the next step for them, right? Is like, you can't have off days. But you want to be like South Africa, you want to be New Zealand 2015, you don't have off days. You comprehensively beat everybody, even on bad days. Like,
yeah, we're having a bad day, we're still 4 tries up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and that's when teams start to fear you. Like, that's when it becomes like, oh god, we've got to play.
Yeah, not just, we might be able to sneak a win. It's no way. Yeah, we're not winning this.
Like, we have to be perfect. I remember watching a thing Johnny Wilkins said about playing the All Blacks. It's like, you have to be perfect for 80 minutes, and then you might win.
Yeah, like, you have to be perfect to have a chance.
Yeah.
No, it was again Finn Russell, and we were chatting before. It was like Scotland, that back line, Blair Kinghorn again, sort of deserved mention. I think he's really. I mean, don't get me wrong, when he was playing across in France, he was sort of phenomenal. But he's really stamped his mark, and I think probably raised his hands for a bit of Lion contention. Kinghorn off the back of this. Yeah, there were moments from Scotland that you saw, but yeah, France, I think, I don't think that they were particularly brilliant.
No, they weren't.
I don't think that they had one of those games that they're capable of. But I think they did. Yeah, they came out, closed it out, knew what they needed to do, went out, executed
and did it. Yeah, it was again another one of those, like, it never felt like Scotland was really gonna win it. I never had that, like, like, as soon as it kicked off, I was like, oh no.
Scotland needed to have come out, put 10, 12, 14 points on the scoreboard,
and then hold,
and then just made France chase it, and hopefully, again, like England, hopefully the passes don't go to hand, hopefully the mistakes twig on.
Yeah, force them to make the extra pass. And they couldn't. And Finn Russell, I genuinely, on a good day, he is the best 10 in the world. Like, magic. True magic. And I see a lot of Scotland fans say, like, it's because he's behind an underpowered pack, and that's probably true. Like, they don't have the pack to dominate teams.
Yeah.
Which is, and I don't know many teams in World Rugby outside of the Springboks, France, England, and maybe New Zealand sometimes, who do have that pack that could consistently do that, and the depth of player to do that now in a world where your subs are as important as your starters, right? Like, and we talked about it off the pod where, like, Will Hurd, great player, don't get me wrong, but he's Scotland's second choice tight head, and at Leicester he doesn't make the bench. So you can't, in today's game, you can't have that. Like, that's not.
It's in there.
Yeah.
And I think, it was, but we discussed it, and now you moved on from the sort of France win, clutching quite honourably their Six Nations title for the year. I think, honestly, it's always good. I don't necessarily like a Grand Slam. I think it's good when people do get it. Sort of.
You like them when Wales get them, but
maybe just sort of maybe a little bit out of the blue. I like it when Wales get it when they're, like, not expected to. Like, nobody expects Wales to come out, and again, if it's one of the team that maybe you hadn't have expected to get a Grand Slam, I think that's. But it is very much actually what's best for rugby, and quite like the middle table bit. The fact that actually France lost to England, but then England lost to Ireland, but then France beat Ireland. So it's kind of like everyone's lost at some point, but everyone sort of had a taste of that at some point. So yeah, really, I think Ireland finishing third might have been a bit of a shock for people.
100%. I think they'll be really disappointed with A, the way they ended it, and B, their performance. And that feeds into what I said. Like, are they now? I'm not saying they are. They're still very capable of turning that around and going and pulling off incredible wins. But are they now at the summit of their kind of what they can do? And now it's
you do. And I think you always have to be wary in this that like first, second, third are all played 5-1-4. Do you think? So, all right, they're split and it looks bad like between first and third, but actually like a bonus point in it here. And but yeah, like the victories are still the same as the France and England, but it really does stack different.
Bonus points matter.
Bonus points matter, which in some, when it comes to World Cups, etc., do not. But yes, Scotland still come away middle table. I mean, they'll be disappointed because this year was their year. Every year is their year.
Was last year and the year before.
Every year is their year. But still, a couple of victories, something to at least be positive about. Italy's win over Wales at least keeps them off the bottom for second year running. At least give them victory. I do think Italy, on the whole, are playing such an exciting brand of rugby, and I think they are slowly but surely getting better. They are staying in the game a little bit longer. They are scoring more and more heavily than they have done in previous Six Nations. They're managing to score more. I think if they could borrow Sean Edwards for a couple of years, they would be a troublesome team.
I think they regressed a little bit this year. I think so. They beat Scotland last year, didn't they? They beat Wales last year and drew with France, which is a bit mad when you think about how France has taken everyone apart. And they should have beaten France in the same sense that like it was a kick that fell off at the end, right? If you say that Scotland should have beat England, then Italy should have beat France. So they've probably regressed, and that's again in the context of France had a poor Six Nations last year. But I think they've probably regressed a little bit. But I 100% agree with you. Defense, if they have amazing attack, and they've almost gone about building a rugby team the opposite way to what most coaches would do. Most coaches start with defense, layer that on, and then start building attack thereafter, right? And they've gotten the other way around. Like, we're going to come at you.
I do, but it's the little bits that are for Italy that show improvement for me. So not necessarily crazily running out of their own 22 at 18 minutes into a game, etc. They're actually attacking in the right areas of the pitch. I think they are coming into the rugby fold in terms of kicking better and kicking well.
The Wales game showed that. I'm not using that just because you're Welsh, but like it was the kicking game won that game. Yeah,
absolutely. And sort of that coming in and actually attacking in the right areas of the pitch. And so before they had a sort of bit of a stop attack from anywhere, and that caught some people out, definitely. And I think sort of, but yeah, no, nice for them to be off the bottom and show some improvement. Unfortunately, that means that somebody does have to be last. And I'm not necessarily that annoyed about being last. I'm annoyed that there is still a big fat 0 in that win column, because I think that sort of coming last is one thing, but again, the sort of second year on a bounce, no victories at all at the bottom, and a points difference of minus 119, which is almost 40 off sort of the next person's, isn't fantastic. So I think that shows actually you're not losing games but still scoring high. You're not only not attacking and scoring, you're taking some pretty heavy defeats, which isn't great for Wales. But yeah, so that's the title to France, and congratulations to them. You have played an exciting and good brand of rugby and a decent team. Leads us on. Should we just cover off fantasy quickly?
Yeah, by all means.
It's their last chance. We'll cover off some interesting bits. My weekend team. An interesting fact that I picked Schumann, Dan Sheehan, 84 points, and Will Stewart. And ironically, that the front row, Schumann, Sheehan, and Stewart, gave me 134 points. But the whole of my backline, including Jameson, Gibson Park, Finn Smith, Lowe, Brex, Max Llewellyn, BRA, who I captained, and Penno, only brought me 131 points. So it was one of those games I genuinely, Penno, Lowe, just Gibson Park. I did not have a great fancy week at all. You did slightly better than me, Chris.
Not a great deal better. So it was just a bit of an odd week. The people that I thought were going to really rake in points to me, like I had Aki as super sub, and I thought it's fantasy gold. Like that's, I was so annoyed. I had Pollock, and that still irks me that I could have had Pollock. But I had my highest score was Dan Sheehan. I don't think that surprises anyone. If you had him, well done. I did recommend Joel had him, so if you didn't listen, shame on you.
Sure.
I did have. I went for the back row of Ben Curry and Ben Earl. They did really well for me. So Ben Curry brought in 46, his man of the match performance. Ben Earl 36. So did really well. Thomas Williams, not a great deal. I thought that there might be, England's fringe defence around the breakdown has historically been exploited, and there's few better in the world at doing that than Thomas Williams. I was like, maybe. But no, niche. I also had Marcus Smith, who in a 68-point rout of Wales did not get a try, which was disappointing because I sacrificed the kicking points to have him in there.
It was definitely a few times in that game that I watched they were covering Smith. Space like Wales, where I was just over conscious of him. I think
you have to be. He accelerates so quickly. And then Tom Roebuck though did well for me. Granted, only got 24 points, but that's only 1 point behind Louis BRA. And his try was impressive, and not many would have had him in their team unless you watch the Prem and are a Sale fan like me, and you know his quality.
But I thought the same, given that my back row, I picked sort of Jack Morgan because I thought he'd be defending and turning over quite a lot against a strong sort of England team. 24 points. Caelan Doris, who's been on form sort of recently, only got me 20 points. Aldrich only got me 16 points. So yeah, on a scoring wise, I did not have a fantastic round at all.
On a plus side, that gave me a total of 2,000. Where is my actual thing?
Here we go.
Gave me a total score of 2,204 points, which importantly saw me beat you. So I am reasonably happy with that. Although old work colleague of ours, Garrett, has absolutely cleaned up and has won the DXV League with 2,397 points.
That's a massive,
which is infuriating, frankly.
Yeah. I'd rather get beaten by somebody with a really cool fancy team name that I have no idea who they are. So the round 5 winner in the overall Six Nations was, hate to say, Atoje so.
That's great. Love it.
Do you deserve to win? Not only because but also because you did have a pretty cracking captain in Kinghorn, your team on the grand scheme. But yeah, Dan Sheehan, Aki players in his team for this. However, it is when we look at the rankings and the overall general Six Nations fancy before they shut it down, it is an interesting one because some of the scores blow mine a little bit out the water. I'm a big fan. Hate to say Itoje so, 2,617 the whole sort of ranking points, that's pretty decent, I think. That's blown my scores out. I might do a separate social media post, because I've just spotted a team name called Felipe Contapunani. So there's definitely, I might just have to have a go through and find some. I mean, some are definitely X-rated, but some are definitely good enough to make my own little video about some awesome, frankly, fancy team names. So I might, prepare yourself for that. As we're on fantasy, and if this is the end of your Six Nations fantasy experience, us here at Dream 15 Rugby have the perfect thing for you. We have our own fantasy game. It's absolutely live, and we're cracking on with the Premiership season that we will move on to. So all you have to do at that point is get across to www.dreamxvrugby, dream15rugby.com. You can sign up now, pick your own team, and get stuck into some good Premiership fantasy.
And if you're a member of a rugby club or support a local rugby club, then get them to get in touch, because there's £2,000 worth of stash to be won, courtesy of Pronto Rugby. And we're looking, that competition is still open to be won if you get enough people in there. It's completely free to play, free for the club, no cost, nice and easy. Just email us at clubs@dreamxvrugby.com.
Yeah, get involved. Like I said, £2,000 worth of free stash, and that can go towards, even if it needs to be your under 16s team, your women's teams, youth teams, club teams, and that's £2,000 worth of stash. So get across to Dream XV Rugby, Dream 15 Rugby, and check out, play some more fancy rugby. Now that moves us on quite nicely onto the Prem and round 12, Chris. So
yeah, thank God, and get rid of all this international nonsense and
focus on to back what is bread and butter, good old Premiership League rugby. So this weekend, it's nice that they've bounced straight off the Six Nations and straight into a derby weekend. It's interesting matchups there.
Yep, hugely. So first up, you've got Northampton Saints, Leicester Tigers, which is going to be really good. It'll be it will be interesting to see who rests players. Who lets people get a few.
I think, and it is
if anyone,
because it is one of the worries.
Running now.
People do say, and again, one of the reasons that England players before the Six Nations getting released that little bit of time earlier, where some of the other internationals weren't, and it's definitely why there's another break in the Six Nations now when we look at towards sort of player welfare. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to see who is that sort of desperateness to have some of their players, international players, back into the squad, and who feels the need to sort of rest them. It's going to be an interesting one.
But Northampton Saints, Leicester, I think.
They're both off the back of losses, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting game. Finn Smith claimed the 10 jersey for Northampton Saints. Had good amount of game time, but I expect he'll definitely go straight back in, because Northampton, with him at 10 and without him at 10, are very different beasts. Furbank must be close to coming back in, which would make a big difference for them if he does. And I don't think they lost Freeman, but Saints have quite a lot of quite a lot of wing cover there, so I expect George Hendy will just come and fill that position. They've also, if I remember correctly, seen that Berger Odendahl is back in for the centres, so that will be a big boost for them in a big, heavy ball carrying centre. For Leicester, they have lost a few people, so George Martin is out. Northampton have also lost Ollie Slightholme. He's actually out injured. He just put a post up saying he's had surgery, so they will be without him. So who does that leave? You've got George Hendy, Seabrook is potentially still playing, James Ram. So they've still got a fairly lethal back three, but they are missing a few of their key players there. And then Leicester, they'll be missing Ollie Chesham.
Clearly.
But they'll have, and George Martin, so their kind of first choice lock pairing is out, which can make a big difference
It's a Saints pack.
Particularly in your scrum, yeah. So that'll be interesting. I think Saints probably take that one. What do you think?
Should we do all 5 predictions at the end? Should we go through the games?
Okay, cool. Happy.
We'll do it there. So we talk through. So that's the Friday night clash. First one, Saints versus Tigers. At the same time, we've got the Northern Derby. Hashtag
Really
Northern Rugby Matters. Sharks versus Falcons. I mean, Falcons off the back of 3 losses. I mean, Sharks off the back of 2 losses.
I mean, I'm this. I don't know if I can do this 2 weekends in a row. So Falcons have historically beaten Sale when they're at home, but outside of the league. So they don't beat them in the Premiership, but they beat them in the Prem Cup, or they beat them in like friendly games. And part of me is like, there's not a great huge amount of difference between the league games and the cups. Like, could they do it at home? And they've had, I mean, granted they've been playing the Prem Rugby Club, but Sale are going to get, like, the Curry brothers have both put in a hell of a shift over the Six Nations, so their bodies must be quite battered and bruised. Granted, George Ford is fit and firing again. He'll be back, and that'll make a big difference to that Sale back line. But I'm edgy. I'm edgy. I'm a little bit twitchy about that.
Yeah, not a bad Friday night to walk straight back in.
Well, it's really annoying because they're both on at the same time, and I really want to watch Northampton Saints versus Leicester Tigers. It's one of the classic derbies, but I also really want to watch Sale. So Prem Rugby, if you could sort that out and please not put games on at the same time, it would make my life more.
And I'm not two subscriptions to watch them both at the same time. It's not happening. That leads us into Saturday. So Sarries Quins, like sort of quintessential London derby.
Yeah, really good derby. They're playing it at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so it'll be full. It'll be bouncing. I hope it's good weather.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's listed as a Sarries home ground, but I don't know if it'll pan out that way.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same as sort of like going to the Wreck. It's not sort of home feel.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be, because I think Quins have probably got more fans than Sarries will turn up, so it may end up feeling like a Quins home game.
This is definitely, when we look at sort of like England selection players and being released back, this is where it matters sort of who plays, right, who comes back in.
It really matters, because like Itoje, for example, has played every minute of the Six Nations, and it has in fact played every minute of the last like 30 England tests. So at what does he get a rest? And you'd like to think so. Sarries are notoriously good at kind of man management and making sure they look after players and stuff. But this game also matters. So, and Itoje is club captain. So does he even want to be rested? Is he like rare? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Fergus Burke, much heralded by Scotland, is like they took him, but never capped him. So still uncapped if England need a 4th choice fly half. But I expect he'll come into the starting lineup again. Elliot Daly straight back in. He's played really well. I think from what I can remember, Sarri's injury worries a lot of their players. So Andy Christie's back, Onyema Christie, who is going to make a huge difference for them. Real quality.
And Jim coming back, yeah.
Tom Willis is back in. Yeah, like their back row is insane. Juan Martin Gonzalez, Tom Willis, Andy Onyema Christie, Ben Earl.
International, just
like just like everyone's in it. You get a cap, everyone gets a, but it's not like a cap. It's like you're all like 30, 40, 50 caps.
Prerequisite to get into that back row is
it's mental. And you look at their second row, and they've got Maro Itoje, Nick Ezekwe. It's impressive stuff. So they'll be tough to beat. But Quins, they are coming off the back of 2 wins. not doing great in the table, really need to start making a run if they're going to do it. Finn Baxter's had a lot of practice over the internationals and done well in the scrum, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes up against the likes of Marco Riccioni for Saracens. I'm looking forward to that game, actually. That'll be a fun watch.
And it is nice on the Saturday that they have split the game, so that one kicks off at 3:05, and the next one's not kicking off till 7:30. So the next one that we go into as we get further down south, Bristol Bears versus Exeter.
That will be interesting. I mean, I think Bristol take it. No, I know we're going to get into predictions later, but Bristol didn't lose anyone to the internationals. Sorry if you see my dog in the background. He's just opened the door himself. They didn't lose anyone to the internationals from an England perspective. I'm just trying to think who they might have lost elsewhere. I don't think they did.
I mean, it's at Ashton Gate. I did similar to you.
But yeah, it should be a pretty clear cut win for Bristol, you would think, right? Like Harry Randall as well. Harry Randall will come back for them, which will make a difference. He really suits their style of play. And Exeter, though, just made a run in the Prem Cup, got to the final, but beaten by Bath. So they've been playing their full team for quite a while, so no real rest. Now that could either go really well. Excuse the dog. That could go really well for Exeter in the sense of they've built some cohesion. They haven't missed a step. They don't have to really come back and find their feet again as they go into this run-in, or it could have exhausted their playing base. I don't know. So that will be interesting to see.
Be a nice one to watch, and it leaves us with the Sunday game. So that is Bath versus Gloucester, both coming off the back of a win. Where do you see that one? I think again internationals.
Yeah, so again, lots of internationals coming back in. Ollie Lawrence, devastatingly for them, has been lost. He's really key to their centre partnership, but it's helpful when you have Max Ajomo and Will Butt to fill in, and Cam Redpath as your centre.
But again, that sort of 9-10 Gloucester, 9-10, 13 Maxwell and Gareth Hanscom.
Straight back in, yeah.
So Thomas Williams sort of, don't get me wrong, whether or not they do go straight back in because they look pretty much pummeled on Saturday. Yeah, so it'd be interesting.
Might want to get back to winning.
I mean, it's going to be a good day at the Rec there. It's going to be an interesting.
That will be a good day, I think. I'm excited to see Guy Peppers back in as well. So he played in the Prem Rugby Cup in the final. So I think that will actually be a much better game than it may have otherwise been. I think Gloucester have been good this season so far. I'm excited to see them keep that going.
Bath been doing the same.
Bath have been Bath top of the table doing amazing stuff, right? So great. But everyone loves to see, unless they're your team, right? Everyone loves to see the top tumble. So
yeah, who doesn't benefit from the top being knocked down a peg?
Yeah, exactly. If Bath loses, as long as you're not a Bath fan, it benefits everybody, right? So
everyone's patting Gloucester on the back.
And I mean, Gloucester have been a good team, and I think it's good for rugby if Gloucester do well because they play a brand of rugby that I think the game or the powers that be in the game are trying to move towards.
Attacking, but yeah, definitely.
So if they can win stuff with that, it moves clubs towards it.
So there's the Prem round 12 games. I'm looking forward to getting stuck back into our fantasy game and picking some players for this weekend. So predictions then, let's get through them thick and fast. Saints, Tigers, who takes it?
Saints by 10.
Saints by 10. I think it's going to be a little bit closer, so I'm going to go Saints, but by 5.
Okay.
Falcons, Sharks.
Sharks by 5.
Sharks by 5. So Falcons at home. I'm not sure I can still. I'm going to go slightly more. I'm going to go Sharks by 11.
Fair. you might be right. George Ford's back, and that'll make a difference. So
a little bit more, couple of tries in. Sarries Quins.
Sarries by 15, I reckon.
Okay. I'm
depending on team selection, wildly depending on team selection.
And all of this is before like teams have been picked, etc. I think I'm gonna split here a little bit. I'm gonna go Quins by 3.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
No, Quins by 3. Just to split some predictions on that one. Bears versus Chiefs.
Bears by 30.
30.
Yeah,
that's strong. I'd say Bears. I don't want to say it's that much. I'm gonna say Bears by 18 on that one. Bath Gloucester.
I think Bath win it, but I'd love to see Gloucester win it. But I think Bath win it by probably 10 to 15. Let's go 10.
Bath by 10.
Let's go 12. Let's go in the middle. Bath by 12.
Bath by 12. I think it's going to be a little bit more, and I think like player selection is going to tell me how much more. But I'm going to go for 17. Bath by 17. Couple of tries, penalty kick, done. So there's our predictions for this weekend. We'll stick them up on a predictions post and look forward to our social media content over the weekend. As ever, thank you very much for joining us on the DXV podcast. As we mentioned before, our fantasy game is up and available to be played this weekend for the Premiership. So head across to Dream XV Rugby now, start a team and get involved with fantasy rugby. As ever, you can join us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Twitter or X. Please follow us as we go forward and get some more stuff on. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.